All right, so we're going to take a look at the currency futures first. The dollar is in the top left. We got the euro below it. We got the British pound next to that. The yen above that. Swiss franc next to that. Australian dollar. New Zealand, I don't ever trade that, so we won't look at that. And then the CAD. We're going to look at all of these besides ugly New Zealand. And then we're going to go into the commodities. We have gold and silver here with oil and natural gas there as well. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. We're going to see the Dow. Excuse me. Next one we're going to look at is the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, and the S&P, the US index futures. And then we're going to look at some crypto with Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right. But first things first, let's look at the dollar and open this up. And I have everything hid right now, but obviously the dollar's been super bullish. We do have some bullish volume still, but price action is showing possible rejection. So overall, of course, this market is extremely bullish, just dumb bullish, but I would like to see some type of a correction come in this week, okay? And so what I've marked off, let's go maybe down to the lower time frame, a couple of different scenarios here, okay? Two things, really, there's three or four, but two things that I want to look for kind of closer and I want to point out, right? On the MACD, we did put in three-wave divergence. That is usually my topping pattern in the MACD. There can be one more push still, but essentially this is more of a topping pattern for me for a nice correction at the very least. And so here is, you know, what I kind of expect to happen, kind of a move down, a correction down, and then probably a move to the upside. But these are some prices: 106.935, basically 107, right? And we can just go ahead and change that to 107. That is a sharp price here that we need to pay attention to. A lot of liquidity in here. If we come down, dip into there, expect maybe a fake out of this trend line, okay? But if we smash through it with volume, okay, if it goes way below this and the volume starts to increase, okay, because right now it's kind of not. But if it does start to increase, then that's going to imply that we'll probably come back and retest and then drop into the previous month's point of control. So these are kind of the areas that I'm watching, and this would be the retest of that daily level over here. So I don't really care for this trend line. I'm just kind of using it for my eyes to see, you know, if we do break this and there's maybe low volume as price comes down, then I would probably expect to move up. And if we do kind of hold before these lows or these areas get broken and price comes back up here, there still is a chance that it could hold below here and make this move down, form this ugly little head and shoulders. But there's also the probability of one more push up for the divergence. And if we get something like this, I might want to wait for the move down to confirm a stop hunt rather than trying to catch it up here, because ultimately the dollar is extremely bullish and it can just continue going. Last week when we called out the divergence move, the play on divergence is always a mean reversion, and we are almost back into the mean, which would be this 50 EMA. So the divergence that was set in is more or less complete. Now, if we do expand away from that 50 EMA again, there will be an opportunity of divergence. And then when you go into maybe the lower time frames, you see how we have not broken this structure yet. So this move down, it has put in 15-minute bearish structure, but not necessarily on the 1 hour. There will be an opportunity for risky shorts here, but ultimately I would like for it to slam down, confirming that we're going to get a correction on the dollar. If not, if it comes down here with low volume, maybe some type of divergence, then we should look for probably this trend to continue. These equal lows down here are a little bit sus as well, but we're going to lean more towards the volume at 107. Okay, so now we're going to get into the euro, which is the pretty much opposite of, or inverse of, the dollar, but it had a little bit, in my opinion, more of an upside move here. We have a lot of euro news, so we got to pay attention to really what's going to happen this week. Okay, I know there's some interesting daily volumes coming in down here. So these areas down here, there was a lot of interest on this day before price went up. And then on the week, you can see last week's volume was extremely high at 1.0075. Okay. And so that's going to be an interesting spot to look at this week as we've started a new week and we come back down into this volume area. Now I would look for a move up here, but this does look like somewhat of a Wyckoff accumulation. This could be a spring. It could be a phase B, ST and phase B. So we might see this chill right here. We might see this break through and then give us that. If it breaks this low, then I'll be watching for a reversal. I will not be trying to trend chase this anymore. It's gone too far down. And you can also see how this broke right here. We are signaling a possible breakout. I would like to see it make a little bit more of a move up to kind of maybe break this. If it breaks last week's high, which is what this box is, that is a very strong signal that we should end up turning around eventually. So we got to really watch to see how this looks during the news. Right now, the volume is down and price is still moving up. So it is kind of a indication that it's getting ready to turn around, but a little early still on everything. We'll watch and see how this plays out during the week. Okay, let's look at GBP. So this one has a lot, I've got a lot more written on this one. So let's kind of hide this real quick and see what we're looking at. Okay. On this weekly time frame, we came in and we have not quite broke these lows of March 2020, unlike the euro that has broke the lows of 2020, smashed the lows of 2020, right? And the dollar as well smashed the high. So the pound, if anything, has held up a little bit better than the euro, a little bit better longer term. But ultimately, it has not held above its kind of long-term area here. And I'm going to just mark this. It's going to be white. So we know that this white line on the lower time frame is a weekly, even a monthly price that eventually, if it's going to go bullish, it needs to get above this price longer term, right? On the weekly price action, it did give a kind of a bearish candle with a little bit of increasing volume. It's not necessarily the sign you want to see for a turnaround yet, but if we erase this price action in 1 week, you'll know the drill. All right, and then here, let's go ahead and clean some of this stuff up. We are actually sitting right at the current month. So it looks like we've gapped up really big on the pound already, or we've already started to move up really kind of faster than normal on the pound into the current month's POC. If the pound gets into the daily point of control, okay, with this low volume during London, I would definitely expect this to react to the downside. Okay, so I will be watching this. I need to put an alert here because this doesn't look normal for price to be moving up like this and there'd be no volume with that. So watching for maybe a move here and then coming back down into these areas. There's a ton of volume over here. So we have weekly and daily point of controls sitting right here. So we will be interested to see price come back down into there. And then at that point, it will be a possibility. We'll have to see how the dollar looks as well, but there will be a possibility for an upside move here. So we'll be watching to see how that goes. We're going to go into the AUD, which is more of my, I guess, favorite look for the week, I would say, compared to some of the other ones, right? Okay, so on the weekly, let's hide everything so we can really see it. Weekly, what happened is it came under these lows, but then closed above them with higher volume. So it could be the first signal that this is getting ready to possibly reverse. And you can see on the weekly, it has not come anywhere close to the 2020 lows. Nowhere close. So the AUD is overall way stronger than the euro or the pound, extremely stronger. And comparing it to the dollar, you know, the dollar is way stronger than the yen is weak, or sorry, the Aussie is weak. So this is more or less in somewhat of a channel on the longer term time frames, right? We could draw this out. Okay, it's in somewhat of a channel. We don't need to see that really. We see how we're at lows. Okay, regardless, it's at lower price. The volume is picking up as we're getting somewhat of a rejection candle. So I'm in favor of seeing somewhat of a move to the upside. Okay, on the daily time frame, you can see the bullish engulfing. It didn't have much volume here, but the 2 days before did, and it didn't move a lot. So that was just kind of signaling a possible reversal or just possible buyers coming in. And after this big candle happened with no volume, that was just kind of a signal that the supply is kind of dried up and we need to start looking for an upside move. Now, when you go into the lower time frames, this is where it gets a little maybe tricky, because we do have that range that formed, and this could be a ST in phase B, and we could see one more move down to spring this market out and then go, or we could see it come down and form an LPS, and that could be the end of it. This is what I'm going to play, and if I'm wrong, then I'll try to take another shot if it does this, okay? Because I do like the opportunity that this is giving. You know, it made this big move down here with this big candle, and it was nothing special on the volume. It was high volume, but nothing special. And the daily closed, it was nothing special. So lack of supply. Then it tested it one more time, and it instantly came back above it. So to me, it's showing lack of supply, lack to the downside now. And I'll be interested if price can come back into that. Now, a lot of times the AUD won't give me like the deep retracement that I want. So if it just does this, don't be surprised, honestly. At this point, it looks like it's diverging a little bit as it's coming up here, with the volume decreasing a little bit, price still coming up. So there most likely will be somewhat of a ABC and come back into here. How far it goes, hopefully it breaks this trend line a little bit and then comes up. So this is the more or less the, I would say, probably the weekly or monthly volume areas. So this would be the monthly over here, and I really don't want it to get that just to stop right here. I want it to come down a little bit lower. This would be the weekly. And I mean, this is good enough for me, to be honest. I'm going to put this alert right here, which is locked for some reason. Okay. And then, so this price right here for the AUD, I'll shoot for that. I'll be okay with that. This looks like a spring, a test. This would be the LPS, and we would be coming out doing something like this, and then boom, breaking out. So I got to play that. I don't know which way it's going to go. It technically shifted structure here as it, you know, it broke this lower low, then it failed to make a lower low, and then we broke this to make a higher high. So there is bullish structure there. I do like that. Okay, let's look at the yen now. The yen is very interesting to me and it's already moving. So when I looked at it at first, the market was closed, but this thing is at insane lows, all-time lows. All right, at least for the futures chart, and the volume is still technically picking up as price is moving down. So it's not the biggest volume, but it is technically still picking up. So I don't love that. We are showing momentum divergence signs though, so that is one thing. Another thing I want to note is we are on a weekly time frame, and this move here could be a preliminary support, a PS, and we could have just seen the SC, which means we will get an AR, an ST, and then another move possibly up here, and then most likely another phase B, ST and phase B. Okay, then something like this, possibly this, or a spring in this. That's what I'm looking for super duper long term for the yen. Now, right now though, if we go down to the lower time frames, it's probably going to continue to sell off a little bit just by how the volume is looking. So we do have this break here. High volume did pick up. I do expect there to be another wave down simply based off of that. If we go down to the 4 hour, you can see the move a little bit now. Clearer, this wave down. Okay, we're retracing. There is a lot of volume in right here. Daily, weekly, a ton. So if it comes into here, I would expect another move down to then create the 4 hour divergence, because right now there is none. Right now there's no 4 hour divergence. So it looks to me that we're going to continue lower. If there is a shot up like this, like straight up, I will probably try to play a bullish move, but I know I'm super early on the yen, and I've been saying I'm early. That's why I am actually interested in shorting if it gets up here. So if the market can come up here into this little trend and give some hidden divergence, which it already almost is, that would be, in my opinion, a good opportunity to look for the yen to fall again, which means we could buy UJ possibly or buy GJ possibly, okay? But if this thing just roars up, then the yen pairs are going to fall hard. All right, let's look at the Swiss franc. And the Swiss is in, it's in an interesting area as well as everything is. But yesterday's or last week's candle was a rejection candle with a little bit of volume. So I do like the opportunity of this might have been the low of the week or month even. On the daily, there is definitely a chance that this is getting ready to go, especially based off these fibs right here. It did tap into the 702 and move out, but I'm still expecting maybe one more move. Last week's point of control is sitting right here at 102.14. So that would be what I would want to see. But right now, it looks like it's probably just going to come up into here and then do, I mean, it could do whatever it wants, but I'll be waiting for it to come back down into these prices to then make this move, a nice inverted head and shoulders. So this weekly point of control, last week's point of control is what I'm looking at. And you can show that right here. It'll bring it up for us. Boom, right here's what I'm interested in. So let me bring that alert right there. And if it can come back into that price, I think we're good to go. There was a nice spring right here. I think this would be a solid trade. You know, there's probably going to be an opportunity before it even gets there. It might just stop at the monthly and go up, but I'm going to wait and be patient for this big move. And then the CAD also is one that might have been a pretty nice stop hunt. So let's look at that on the weekly. You can see the high volume that came in, extreme volume that came in on this rejection, somewhat of a rejection candle that failed to close below these lows, okay? So that's really what's important, the failure of closing below the lows with high volume. So on the daily, it has, and we can just delete that. You can see the extreme volume on this wick of a breakthrough. That to me is showing buyers. So if price begins to move up, that would be the sign for me that that was pretty much a spring. And if it could come back into this or even just correct a little, I would want it to come all the way down into there, honestly. I would be looking for the inverted head and shoulders on the CAD. But right now, okay, I gotta be patient because it still does have this type of look to it. And it could just reject here and make a lower low. And I could be wrong about the spring. So me personally, I don't like playing the spring or the test unless the spring is like, woo, then I'll play the test. So if it does come up a little bit more, I'll be interested in a test. But right now, I don't really want to play this. I would play this though, if this all happens, okay? So on everything, the reason I am, and that's all of the currencies that I look at, the reason why I am even interested in anything being bullish at all, since the yen's at all-time lows, this is basically just broke structure, looks like a perfect fib. The reason why I am bullish on anything and not bearish is because of the dollar, right? If the dollar does correct, all of these are going to correct as well, most likely, okay? So when I'm bearish on the dollar, I am more bullish on some of the other currencies, right? So let's look at some commodities real quick. Gold, and we got gold here, silver, oil, and natural gas. And I'm going to go over these rather quickly, but you can see how gold has been in a weekly tear to the downside, same as silver. Oil starting to show a little bit of rejection, but at this 93 level, 95 level, and natural gas has just been on an uproar since 2020, but it had a big blow off at this top right here, a very big one. So I'll be looking at these real quick, but really just want to take a look at this natural gas first, okay? And I don't trade natural gas really ever, and never have, but this type of play looks interesting. If this thing is going to actually fall, it has created more or less of a perfect pattern. Okay, you saw the impulse on the weekly, you can see it on the daily, big impulsive move that has broken structure. Now, if you want to flip this around, you definitely can, and it did hit the 702 in a bullish market. Yes, I understand. But when a market goes up for so long and then creates this downside move and brings some volume with it, to me, that's an opportunity for a swing move to the downside that you don't get to see a lot. Okay, so I'm pretty much expecting this to make another move up. Still, it does look like it needs to make one more move up here, correction, very bullish right now, and then form some type of divergence to bring it down, okay, which would mean these move very similar, okay, which would mean I'm pretty much looking for an ABC correction on oil before a drop, okay? And you can see the three-wave divergence here, 1, 2, 3. If I bring up my divergence fib here, or my divergence indicators, you can see the divergence clear as day. You don't see it as much in the RSI, so that's sometimes an indication that I'm a little early. But for me, this is a perfect setup. If oil does impulse from here, and I mean, look at it, it has opened at the area where I would look for buys, to be honest, if I was an oil trader. So I'm not an oil trader, to be honest, but this would be, if I was going to, it's the perfect spot. So what was that? Let's see, futures, CAD, looks like it's hitting a 786 from last week or something. Okay, let's go back to natural gas and oil, I mean. All right, so I don't trade oil, but that looks, I mean, if it's going to go up, it's in a spot where probably going to move up from here. If it does, that's going to be the opportunity for me to look for buys right here. Okay, that's how I'm going to play that. Now, gold is in a very tough position, in my opinion, because it has a lot of chances to do a lot of things. And it looks like we're going to not do the downside opportunity. So I analyzed this earlier, and I'm coming back to do kind of a recap. So here we go. Here's the opportunities. Now, it does kind of suck because I was in a buy on gold down in here, and then I got stopped at a break even, and now it's moving up. But regardless, I think gold is inside of this channel long term, and we're probably coming down into these 2021 lows. You can see here, all throughout here. It's just liquidity. I very highly doubt it doesn't get into 1673 at some point before really making any type of an actual move to the upside. Yes, it could correct to the upside. I don't even think it's going to get up here before it gets down here. Okay, so I would be more interested to see gold fail sooner than later right here and then make one more move down. Gold isn't my favorite to trade, but if I were to have an opinion on what's about to happen, I would think we're going to get a fake move to the upside and then a downside move. Okay. After that, we'll probably see some type of a quick move out of there. And if we get all of that to play out, I will be extremely bullish on gold. But ultimately, it needs to sweep these lows, not just hit it. It needs to kind of sweep them out. So I like the fact that there was a order block type of a candle, you know, a very interesting manipulation candle here, and then price went down. So if price does come back into that, I would be very interested to see what happens to the downside. You can see that there is some volume sitting right above the fibs. I'm going to see if there's any other daily volumes over here. A little bit right there. Let's see about some weeklies. Weekly last week is down here, and we are above it at this point. So there is this area right here from last week, which lines up pretty clean with the manipulation candle. So I like this. It's just not necessarily my bread and butter type play. If it was an impulsive move to the upside after this type of pattern, it would be more perfect. But regardless, I would like to see a manipulation type of a setup here to where these highs are getting hit, and then we're coming back down fast. If we get that type of a setup, we can kind of pretty much know we're staying in this channel. Okay, if price starts to break out and this volume continues to increase, because right now it continues to increase, then we should expect somewhat of maybe of a reversal on gold without this hitting. But I highly doubt it doesn't get hit. Okay, now let's look at the S&P. And you can pretty much see how they're all showing these wicks. I'm getting a little bit more bullish short term on them. When you get this type of price action after, you know, failing to break 2 weeks, 3 weeks in a row, you know, volume did pick up a little bit on all of the weekly candles. You know, I can't see anything else other than a possibility to the upside. And especially if price comes back down here again, definitely am going to look for a bullish opportunity. So as they all look pretty much the same, I'm going to lean towards either the NASDAQ or either the Dow Jones or the S&P rather. But I did mark up a little bit more on the Dow, I believe. So let's go look at that. They're all going to do very close to the same thing. Okay. The reason I marked up the Dow over the other two is I believe it had a better stop hunt on Friday or Thursday. Either way, when it cleared out these lows, I like to see that versus how this is just still trending. Now, some people would say they like the trend better versus the stop hunt, but for me, I'm just more of a stop hunt type of person. I like to see price stop out and then move, and it did it the same on the S&P. So it really will just be which one corrects the cleanest to decide which one I want to buy. But I am in the camp of the bulls, I think, for this week. All right, so here's ultimately what I want to see. We do have some volume down here at this price, and it would suck if, you know, price ended up coming down and taking this out one more time and then making that move, because it technically this could be an ST in phase B, but I'm looking at it as a spring. So I want to see this pretty much happen, price come correct down into these fibs. And then I'm a 78.6 player, but you know, depending on how this thing looks, I might strike before that. So here would be like the stop out of the liquidity, and it's right above the 78.6. So pretty much that would be the strike. And since I am really questioning the US economy and all the rate hikes and everything, it might be safer to, instead of just, you know, have so much confidence in this setup, to wait for this to break, wait for structure to break out, and then have more of confidence to take maybe something right here versus right here, as the structure could maybe start to shift. Okay. They're all going to be similar. It's all how they really correct. And if one of them can maybe break structure better than the other, that would be a little bit cleaner, I would say. That's why I'm looking at the US 30, because it did technically break above somewhat of a trend line if we're talking trying to find structure, trying to find a bullish case. Okay, so I am a little bullish on these. To bring them down would be something on a lower time frame to try to take, but this looks like more of a weekly setup. And then I did talk about the macro picture, about how I wanted these to get all the way up into these fibs, a little bit higher fib out, I think right here. And if that can happen by, I just want to mention this before I switch. If this gets up here before the next Fed meeting, which is July 27th, right? Then I think we're going to have an opportunity to see a market fall again. If the market gets there with more volume than we've seen recently, if volume starts to increase on the daily, on the S&P, then I will be entitled to think that this is going to drop. And another thing I do want to mention is the volume on this daily, not that great. It was the weekly volume that was good. So this daily candle did not really produce well. It didn't produce well on this. It didn't produce well. It produced a lot better on this. And that's actually another reason to focus on US 30 over the other ones, okay? And last but not least, crypto. So on the top, I have Bitcoin future, and on the bottom, I have Bitcoin spot. Because as you can see, there's gaps in here. This one only goes to about 2018, and then this one goes forever. So that's why I have that. And I have the same thing over here with Ethereum futures, February 2021. This goes on for a minute. And so it just helps me see some more data. I like to base my majority of my volume decisions off of, you know, the CME charts. Okay, and you can see how they are a little different. Okay, Coinbase volume this week closed like this. And then the CME volume closed like this. So they're going to be a little different to me. I think the CME volumes on any CME chart is going to be more valid, just because it's the futures charts, the CMEs, where the big boys play. So with that being said, let's look at some of these, and we're going to go into the futures chart. And like I said, high volume with not a lot of movement. That's telling me something is going on. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. Okay, we could see this continue to range. We could see this tank saying there's no demand yet, or we could see this thing pop out of here. There really is no telling. With the strength of Ethereum, okay, so let's just really look at that real quick. With the strength of Ethereum versus the strength of Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is still within a bearish fib, giving extremely bearish price action. Ethereum broke out of a range, giving let's just keep going vibes. So we're in a weird spot right now, to be honest. I haven't really seen it diverge this much in a while, and that's due to the dominance. Okay, the Bitcoin dominance is tanking while the Ethereum dominance is starting to pick up. So we're at 17 here and 42 here. Not too long ago, it was 48 and looks like 14, or it could have been up here at 20. Either way, this is looking very bullish. So are we starting to see a flip going on with Ethereum and Bitcoin? It would be very interesting to see that. Okay, let's go back into the Bitcoin futures, right? And right now, technically, like we saw on the daily, it's still within this bearish impulsive fib, still within this range. And there's nothing telling me Bitcoin should just break out yet. Nothing at all. In fact, I want to show one more chart that is a really good comparison chart that we've been following. And every time that Bitcoin makes a big move down, Tether has made a big move to the upside. And what we're seeing in Tether is impulse in the MACD, another impulse in the MACD, no divergence there. This is showing clear continuation. It's called convergence. And right now we're getting a somewhat of, I would say, a possible bull flag scenario for another move to the upside. Once we get the higher high in price, or even just a double top in price of, or the dominance in Tether, I believe that will give the bearish divergence in the MACD that we would need to see. Also, it would probably give some type of bearish divergence in the RSI that we would need to see for a longer term turnaround. Okay, even on the weekly, right now, it's showing that we could possibly see some downturn, a little downtick in the in price or in this, but ultimately I'm just waiting for this thing to correct and then make another move up. So at any point, if this USDT dominance, Tether dominance ticks up heavy, that's going to send Bitcoin down. And we're already starting to see this diverge here. So if it makes another lower low, I expect that to be a third wave, and that's probably going to be the move that sends this thing to the upside after it just broke these kind of recent lows, you know, a spring test. It would make sense, guys. It would make sense, and that would bring Bitcoin down. So I have to really watch all of the different markets right now to see how they're really going to be moving with or against each other. Right now, obviously, Ethereum is just saying, nah, we're going to the moon. And with that, let's move over to, because obviously, you know, if the Tether dominance makes one more move down, this is going to make one more move up, sending it right into the 786, right into this daily POC, right into this gap fill. I would expect that to hold and fall. It just, can't see anything else besides that until this breaks out of this. I'm not bullish, but Ethereum, on the other hand, it's usually not like this, right? If we're bearish on Bitcoin, we are going to be bearish on everything else. But with this happening, guys, there's no other way to play it except when it comes back in, we got to look for buys. And if we're wrong, it'll be sweet because the price will come back into the range way deeper, taking out any stop loss that we have set somewhere. And then we would expect a move down and we'd be able to sell it knowing the stop should be safe right there, okay? So either way, I'm okay with what's going on with Ethereum. Essentially, when you look at it on the actual spot price, you can really see what's good with it. Okay, we had this spring LPS. It never broke this. Technically, it wasn't the spring in my opinion. I thought it was the ST and phase B. Thought we were going to come lower, but we didn't. And now we're just sign of freaking strength, the buildup. It's looking like it's about to just take off. It's a perfect Wyckoff schematic. In fact, look at this. Look how perfect this looks. If we could do this and this, right? How much cleaner does it get? And it would be this one. Okay. Just, it doesn't get much cleaner than that. SPS, ST and phase B, LPS, another LPS, and then it took off. Now we're making the SOS BU. So you can't really see this in any other way. The only other thing that could be is this could be somewhat of a euphoric move, and this ends up kind of just coming back down. And then if that's the case, we'll be able to play it. We'll be able to see it. We'll just be wrong the first time. You can't be right every time, right? This is an extremely bullish trend that if it comes back down, I'm definitely going to look for buys. No freaking doubt about it. I'm gonna put an alert here at the 61.8 and be prepared for it probably not to even get to the 786. But the 786 is 1248 or 1243. On the futures chart, 1243 is just above this daily POC. 1243 is right around here. So I'm okay with 1243, knowing it could come a little bit lower to around 1227. So if I have to really dial this thing down, right? 1227 would be like right around here, and that would make sense for the imbalance. But I don't want it to go lower than this. All right, so that would be a pretty much a buy opportunity right there. And with that being said, you know, that's gonna be it. I appreciate everyone for coming on, checking it out. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, and try to fill up our Telegram channel, because we are about to start dropping signals on signals on signals once we hit 300 followers. So make sure you get on that. Peace.